Good evening, I'm Ces Oreña-Drilon.
I'm Pauline Verzosa.
And I'm Shawn Yao.
The big stories tonight. The House prosecution team asks the Senate to order Vice President Sara Duterte to answer the articles of impeachment filed against her. These include her office's alleged misuse of confidential funds and her alleged assassination plot against the president. The prosecution team wants her reply in 10 days.
And we've seen many trucks figure in road accidents. One even led to the partial collapse of a bridge and horrendous traffic at NLEX as we speak. Well, just how safe are trucks in the country and how qualified are the drivers hired to drive them? We'll discuss this with the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines later on in the program.
And Malacanang has cautioned the public against the spread of fake news and disinformation, now that even the first family is not spared from it. How can the government take action against fake news? We'll discuss this with the Department of Information and Communications Technology.
Parang ginigising lang namin, ito yung rules ninyo po. Kung may power sila o wala, we are not pressuring. We are doing our job.
House prosecutors have filed a motion urging Senate President Francis Chis Escudero to issue a writ of summons, which will compel Vice President Sara Duterte to respond to the articles of impeachment.
In Escudero's timetable, the Senate, acting as an impeachment court, will issue the summons on June 4.
But since Senator Amy Marcos conducted a probe on former President Rodrigo Duterte's arrest while the Senate was on break, House prosecutors decided to file the motion this Tuesday. Marian Enriquez with tonight's big story.
House Minority Leader Nonoy Libanan led impeachment prosecutors in filing a motion for Senate President Chis Escudero to compel Vice President Sara Duterte to respond to the articles of impeachment within 10 days from receipt. The Senate accepted the motion this morning. But in Escudero's Senate calendar, the presentation of the articles of impeachment is scheduled for June 2, while the court will issue the summons 2 months from now on June 4. But according to House prosecutors,
June 4 is not 10 days. Napakalayo po niyan. Parang ginigising lang namin, ito yung rules ninyo po. Kung may power sila o wala, we are not pressuring. We are doing our job.
Joining Libanan in filing the entry with motion to issue summons at the Senate are One Rider Party List Representative Rog Gutierrez, Deputy Majority Leader Paulo Ortega, and Assistant Majority Leader Jay Kong-hoon. Prosecutors have already signed the motion on March 14 but delayed filing it because all along they thought the Senate is on break.
Apparently, nagkaroon po sila ng hearing last Thursday nung committee ni Senadora Amy. Ibig sabihin, nagtatrabaho pa rin po ang Senado.
Vice President Duterte is in The Hague, Netherlands, supporting her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, who is facing charges before the International Criminal Court. If the Vice President is still abroad, once the Senate issues the summons, she can file her response at the nearest consulate. For News 5, I'm Marian Enriquez. We are One News.
Vice President Sara Duterte clarified some controversial statements she made in front of supporters in the Netherlands.
And among these was the comparison she made between her father, former President Rodrigo Duterte, and the late Senator Ninoy Aquino if the former should come back home to the Philippines.
Vice President Duterte also denied calling for the resignation of President Bongbong Marcos. Let's thresh this out further with Joey Francisco, who reports to us live from the Netherlands. Hi, Joey. Good evening.
And good morning from The Hague, ladies. It's the second day of us waiting for the lead counsel of former President Rodrigo Duterte, Attorney Nick Kaufman, outside the penitentiary because we want to get updates on the formation of the legal team that will defend the former president, especially after yesterday's clarifications or statements made by the Vice President that the team is not yet formed fully and that they're still looking for a Filipino lawyer. But yes, you're right, Shawn and Ces and Pauline. The Vice President also took the opportunity to clarify some things he said during the meet and greet last Sunday. First off is the comparison between her father and Ninoy Aquino. Let's listen in.
Ang binabasihan lang natin is kung ano yung nangyari. Yung nangyari doon. Kung ano yung nangyari sa kaysaysayan. Ito ay nagpapakita kung ano yung kapasidad o capacity nila. Hindi naman si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte ang nagsasabi na magiging Ninoy siya, Aquino. Ang nagsabi nun ako at hindi si Pangulong Duterte.
Correct.
Those were my fears for the life of my father.
She also clarified the news that she's calling for the resignation of President Bongbong Marcos, and let's listen in.
Wala akong sinasabi ever na magdapat mag-resign.
Baka totoo kayo.
Ang sinabi ko lang kahapon.
Andun siya kahapon eh.
Nanawagan
Andun siya kahapon, si Maris.
Bigyan nyo ng rason kung bakit yan ang panawagan ninyo sa kanila. And then I gave them example.
The Vice President was also asked about her plans for 2028, and this was her sort of enigmatic reply.
So mahirap paasahin ang mga tao tapos alam mo namang hindi ka magtatagumpay sa kandidatura mo. So kailangan paniguraduhin na mananalo para nabibigay yung expectation. That we have to see by the numbers and by science and mathematics.
Okay, so ladies, what we're waiting, at least for this week, is the arrival of the other members of the Duterte family, specifically the mother of the Vice President and also Kitty Duterte and her mother.
All right, thank you so much for that update from the Netherlands. That was Jovi Francisco reporting to us live.
And we have breaking news from Marikina. The Ombudsman placed Mayor Marcy Teodoro, Vice Mayor Marion Andres, and 13 councilors under a 6-month preventive suspension. The suspension stems from a technical malversation case filed in 2024 by Sofronio Dulay. The Ombudsman's ruling was dated March 21st. In a statement tonight, Teodoro says he is, quote, a casualty of political persecution, plain and simple. He adds that he will not be intimidated by the charges and will face them head on. The suspension comes as local candidates begin campaigning this Friday.
Now, in other news, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa confirms his security detail in Davao City has been pulled out. De la Rosa says he confirmed this when he went home yesterday. He found that the 2 policemen guarding him regularly had already left. The senator said he also has separate security in Manila from the PNP, but he does not know yet if they have also been pulled out. This comes after rumors he is the next subject of an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. But then De La Rosa also revealed many retired policemen and soldiers have applied to be his security detail, and he has accepted more than 10. He also said he understands where the government must be coming from when they pulled out the policemen assigned to him.
Nag-iingat ang mga commander nila. Yung mga unit commander ba, nag-iingat na hindi masilip.
Hindi masilip na?
Na may tao sila sa akin dahil mainit naman eh. Mainit man ang gobyerno sa akin, di ba?
The Armed Forces of the Philippines welcomes the possible deployment of a second battery for the Mid-Range Capability or MRC Typhoon missile system here in the country. The United States Army's 3rd Multi-Domain Task Force Unit has sent the Philippines its first Typhoon missile launcher last year. The U.S.-based website Defense News reports that a second Typhoon battery is expected to be deployed in the Indo-Pacific region to support year-round exercises with regional allies to deter China's military presence. The military says the missile will be a welcome development to strengthen its defense posture.
The more the merrier, no? So the more assets that we have, the more also that we are able to train more personnel on our part. So tinatanggap po natin to willingly.
The Philippine Army will welcome this, itong mga ganitong events dahil nga mas mapabilis natin yung training ng ating mga personnel. Sa ngayon kasi maliliit lang yung personnel na natitrain natin. So we welcome this kung mayroon man darating.
We're going to take a quick break, but coming up next, we speak to the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines about the current state of trucking in the Philippines amid the recent accidents trucks and their drivers have figured in the past weeks. Keep it here on One News.
You're watching The Big Story here on One News. Trucks often figure in accidents these days, may it be mechanical like brake failure to human error or driver error. Lately, a bridge collapsed due to overweight trucks despite clear signs saying the bridge was for light vehicle use only. Motorists using the NLEX have to bear bumper-to-bumper traffic from Balita to Maykawayan after a truck with a high load hit the Marilao Interchange Bridge, which is now being repaired. We also see in the news truck-related accidents which led to deaths and damage to property. Now let's discuss this in depth with Maria Zapata, President of the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines. Good evening to you and welcome to The Big Story. First of all, ma'am, may we know how you regulate your members? Are there penalties that you apply on erring owners?
Yes. But most especially the drivers, we are calling the attention of the operators to really have a nice, for the driver to have a nice attitude at the road. But simply because it's accident, and sometimes, as you always hear from the news, na nagkakaroon ng breakdown ang brake or natutulog ang ating mga driver nakatulog. So that's the problem, really na unavoidable. But as much as possible, we wanted to be safe from any accident.
Let's zero in on the two incidents that have figured in the news recently. The owner of the truck in the Cabangan Bridge is a member of the Confederation po?
Yes, so, they are.
What measures have you done to prevent? Because clearly there was a violation because signs were prominent that the bridge was still for use of light vehicles only.
Yes, as of now, the case is still continuing, and the penalty being imposed with the operator is that driver is in jail and in process of lifting the suspension of drivers and the operator because the cargo is still in yet on the site, and the cargo is really needed to have it delivered to the consignee, to the owner. So what we are doing right now is we are just communicating with the NLEX and asking for, we are asking from them because the judge is requesting us to get a go signal from NLEX if we can have the cargo delivered. So this afternoon, what we did is that we communicated with NLEX and requesting on how we can participate and how we can resolve and how we can help or we can address the situation.
Ma'am, are you referring to the Marilao accident or the Cabagan Isabela accident?
Marilao.
Right. So the driver is in jail. Let's focus on this one, being the more recent one. If the driver is in jail, what about the operator? Does the operator also bear responsibility po?
Yes, of course. If there is damages, of course, number one to be charged is the driver. But we know the situation of the driver. If there is a claim, of course, they are not capable of answering it or addressing it. So here comes the operator that will be liable also.
Okay, well, the NLEX incident, no ma'am, it was, kumbaga, overheight. It was, the clearance was way too high than allowed. How do we go about these things? No? Sino nagdedesisyon? Should it be the discretion of the driver and the operator na, okay, masyadong mataas yung vehicle, hindi ako dadaan dito? Or should it be the toll gate saying, wait, masyado kayong mataas? Or is it, self-regulation?
Alam niyo yung nangyari dyan sa Marilao na yan, that is what we are trying to explain. May required height yung ating overpass dyan para makadaan ang truck sa ilalim. It so happened na yung 40-something, 49 na supposedly, naging 45 na lang because tumaas yung kalsada sa baba because of patong ng any improvement on the ground. So yun yung, we cannot blame totally our member, but since it's there already and we don't want to argue with the problem, we just want to address the problem.
So just to be clear, no, kumbaga nakalagay dun sa karatula, outdated na. Dahil tumaas sa kaka-overlay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what happened in Marilao.
Pero actually, ma'am, parang na-debunk na rin po yan ng NLEX spokesperson. Sabi nila that pag ina-aspalto daw nila yung NLEX, they take into account naman yung clearance ng mga tulay. So they're not attributing it to the asphalt overlay. Instead, actually, yung driver, parang inamin din po niya na he assumed that all the vertical clearance ng mga tulay ay pare-pareho lamang. He didn't know na iba-iba po yan. So with that, you think there's this lack of proper training and knowledge sa mga truck driver po doon sa mga vertical clearance sa NLEX?
No, kasi it's usually, yung kalsadang yan sa Marilao na yan, it's the usual way the truck is passing by. But it so happened, with the situation nga na I said na medyo tumaas na ng tumaas sa pag-overlay na yan. So nagkaroon ng ganyang sitwasyon. And yan na nga yung ayaw namin. We don't want to blame anybody else, but we would like to address the problems peacefully. And nung mangyari naman yun, we never had a chance to be participative of the investigation. So kung sinasabi nila na hindi totoo yun, wala kami doon sa site para malaman talaga yung height condition ng ating pinag-uusapang problema.
But you're saying the operator and the Confederation is now agreeable to bear the responsibility of the accident?
Yes. But as I said, we are making an arrangement with NLEX on how we can help our operator in a way balanced to both parties.
Okay. Doon naman sa balikan natin yung nagyari sa Isabela, no, because nagulat talaga yung lahat. In that case, that was an overloading. We spoke to the designer of the bridge. He stands by na yung bridge ay may 50% overloading allowance na factored in. Ang pinopoint out niya ay yung overloading ng truck. So, I did some research and the RA 8794, no, yung Motor Vehicles Users Charge Law, and that in there is included the anti-overloading law. So, base sa nalalaman ninyo dun sa mga truck, first of all, member din po ba sila ng CTAP?
Yeah, yung nangyari sa pagbagsak sa tulay, hindi namin member yun kasi graba ang kanilang karga. Ang mostly of our members are port-related operators at the port. But then, magandang pag-usapan yun dahil sinasabi nila overloaded in the sense na 100 tons ang karga ng truck. But in my 45 years in the transport, parang ngayon lang ako nakarinig ng may truck na may capacity na magkarga ng 100 tons. Normally, ang aming na overload na kargamento is 60 to 70 tons only.
So as far as you know, yung kumbaga yung pinaka-modern truck existing right now, ang pinaka-heavy load na kaya buhatin is nasa 60 to 70 tons.
Yes, based on my knowledge.
Pero may mga super trucks na po daw ngayon na that can carry above 60, like you said.
It's like this, what you have mentioned, the overloading act. Supposedly, that is the best law for the trucker because kung ang aming karga is lesser, magaan, that will be good for the maintenance of our unit. So if really anybody is serious in implementing this, dapat talaga gumawa ng serious approach to this. Kasi ang nangyayari sa amin, yung mga overloading, paparahin kami ng mga enforcers at sasabihin, overloaded kami doon sa based on their mga weighing scale, no? But after kami ma-penalize, matanggal ang plaka, matikitan ng driver, magbayad kami ng 2,000, ay patatakbuhin pa rin. So, where is the implementation of the law? Ang aming nire-recommend talaga, kung may huling ganon, may enforcer talagang nagsasabi na overloaded, don't let go the truck with the cargo overloaded.
You're willing to suffer that consequence?
Come again?
Willing po ang mga truckers and members of your association to suffer that consequence na ma-hold?
Na
ma-hold po. Hindi, sabi nyo, hindi ngayon ang kalakaran pinapaandar kahit overloaded. Pero willing po kayo para isabatas na nga yan, maging klaro ang penalty.
Yes, very much, because that is favorable for us. Kasi the lesser load for us is the better for us. We can save on the consumption of diesel and the tires usage.
If that is so, who is responsible for overloading if not the operator? Is it the workers? The drivers?
No, it's the PWH.
So they should man? Paano po ba yung system?
Yes, what
Clear,
would you
wala kami
recommend?
experience yun nga eh. Pag kunyari may tulay na malalaki, no? Like say you're driving big trucks outside of Metro Manila, outside the NCR, mga national highway po yan. Meron po bang mga nakabantay? Syempre kami usually nasa light vehicles, hindi naman namin pinapansin na kung may nagbabantay doon. Pero meron po bang mga tauhan ng DPWH?
In every checkpoint of overloading, may DPWH yun. In cooperation with the LTO and the local enforcement unit, no? So, ang sinasabi nyo kung sa lahat ng kalsada maraming nagbabantay na mga tao or enforcers, alam nyo yan lagi ang problema namin. Pagka mga outports at saka out-of-town trips, talagang nagpapadala kami ng mga additional budget for the driver dahil lagi kaming ini-stop dyan looking for something. Yan, and yet ito yung mga dapat na bantayan at helpful, bakit nakalusot ito?
Siguro before anything else, no, we should correct the misconception na isang truck lang yung nakapagpatumba doon sa Kabagan Bridge. It was actually 3 trucks with a combined weight of 100 plus tons. Yun.
Yes, I think I don't want to blame. I don't want to blame anybody else. But I think kung nakikita nila na 3 truck yun na magkakasunod at nakikitang kung may nag-check doon at the foot of the bridge, makikita nilang overloaded yun. They should have let one by one pass, not 3 of them at a time.
But ma'am, aside from policing, do you think mas kailangan pang paigtingin ang self-regulation? I mean, what are the protocols in place before a driver is cleared to proceed with his travel? Do you think po there needs to be reforms in terms of that?
Yes.
Can you elaborate, ma'am?
Come again. I can't hear that clearly.
Yes,
please.
What sort of reforms po would we need, no? Para po better, win-win situation for everybody involved, all stakeholders.
Yes, everybody should work hand in hand with the government agencies concerning the operation of the truck. We, operators, the drivers, we have to cooperate with each other, and all the necessary procedures that will prevent the same should be in place.
Okay, also saw online that the CTAP, your association, you've actually been asking formally for a revision, an upward revision of the overload limit or the maximum load limit. How could this affect, no, given na yung bridge code natin may maximum weight limit lang, if na-grant po itong increase in overweight limit, pasok pa rin po ba sa bridge code natin?
Oh, well, that I cannot answer you well with the capacity of the bridge, no? But I would like to point out is that the load of the truck lesser than what they are calling overloaded, mas mabuti para sa amin. So if there is really a serious implementation of overloading in checking on the road, well, that will be fine for us because everybody na mahuhuli na overloaded, of course, yung mga nagkakarga ng overloaded na yon, madidiscipline na yon. They will not do that again. That is the point that we are telling with every meeting that we are having right now with the DPWH, DOTR. Yan lagi ang sinasabi namin, implement seriously the overloading. Kaya lang, mahirap itong i-implement kaagad-agad kasi may economic factor ito na affected Kasi bakit? Kung yung 3 truck na yon na overloaded na sinasabi ay hindi pinayagan at binawasan ng karga, dapat yon magiging 6, magiging 10 biyahe. So, additional cost yun. Yan yung add-on on the inflation or so on and so forth. Kaya hindi ko maabot kung ano ba talaga. Kung nawawalan kasi ng nawawalan kasi ng visa yung implementation ng ng overloading.
Ma'am, if I may ask you, magkano bang budget binibigay ninyo sa mga truck pahinante na ibabayad? Yung lagay ba dun sa mga papara sa kanila?
Like for example, pupunta ka ng Cagayan, dapat may baong ka doon mga 5,000.
5,000. Ilang stops kaya yon? Isa lang or
napakarami
several?
kasi ang daming stop na yan. Siguro more or less, baka mga 10 stop yan, mayroon.
So ang going rate, 500 per stop. Nasa ganun po. Kasi usually may standard.
It depends kasi. Mas mabuti kung makukuha sa 500. Pero kung marami sila in a group in one place, of course, it's a different story.
Oh. Okay.
Well, that's also an informal, a setup that parang both sides are guilty.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well,
as I said, that's why everybody has to cooperate. And everybody has to understand the real situation.
Be accountable also.
Yeah,
Kasi yung nangyayari nila dyan sa overloading na yan, parang ang implementation nila defeats the purpose of the law.
Naging ano lang, no?
So, we thank you so much for being very candid with us, and we do hope that the government will also be serious in implementing the rules. Thank you so much. That was Maria Zapata, President of the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines.
Time to pause for a quick break, but when we return, fake news and disinformation seems to be on overdrive these days. Can these really be stopped? And what is government doing to address this? We'll have the Department of Information and Communications Technology on this topic next. Keep it here on One News.
Welcome back. You're still watching The Big Story here on One News. Detained doomsday preacher Apollo Kibuloy is facing another complaint, this time filed by hip-hop artist Omar Manzano, also known as Omar Baliw. Manzano filed yesterday a copyright infringement complaint against Kibuloy for using his song without prior consent. Omar Baliw also charged Marlon Rosete, the president of Sunshine Media Network Incorporated, or SMNI, the media arm of Kibuloy's Kingdom of Jesus Christ. Attorney Israelito Torion, Kibuloy's legal counsel, said the case is a chance to prove that his client has no involvement with Omar Baliw's song.
Nadismaya ako, syempre. Walang pahintulot. Yon, parang bad trip, parang ganun. Bilang artist kasi sobrang halaga talaga ng copyright para sa kagaya namin na mapangalagaan yon kasi kumbaga ito yung art namin, ito yung ginagawa namin.
Well, it's a welcome development. It's a welcome development that Omar Baliw filed a case against Pastor Apollo Sigibuloy so that the truth will come out as to whether or not he is guilty of copyright infringement. From what I know, he was totally clueless, no, as to the details of the presentation because alam mo na, nasa loob siya ng bilangguan ngayon.
And President Bongbong Marcos has asked the PCO, or Presidential Communications Office, to combat fake news. This all comes after photos of First Lady Liza Araneta Marcos made rounds online with critics claiming that they were edited. One such image shows the First Lady dining with members of the Asian Cultural Council in Malacanang last Saturday, sparking rumors that she was not in the Philippines and allegedly arrested in the United States, which the palace has denied. Malacanang said that even the president is feeling the impact of fake news.
Ever since, tinatarget na sila ng fake news. Hindi ito bago. Simula nang hindi naging maayos ang pagtingin ni VP Sara sa pamilya Marcos, nag-start na po ang fake news. In a way, he is slightly affected. So that's why they asked the PCO to do its job to counter fake news. Not only for himself, but for the country.
The palace also dismissed Attorney Harry Roque's claims made during a Facebook Live, alleging that the First Lady was upset that PBBM was not made Agriculture Secretary under former President Duterte. They also rejected his call for a people power movement.
Liza Araneta, galit na galit dahil hindi tinalaga ang Marcos Jr. bilang Secretary of Agriculture. Well, pasensya na po kayo, pero talagang ang galing ng judgment ni Presidente Duterte pagdating sa character. Alam niyang bulok ang Marcos, hindi lang ang senior, kundi pati ang junior.
Fake news? Fake news. Prove it. Peaceful gathering. For what? For what? Anong purpose? If they really for peace, why are they asking for the resignation of PBBM?
And to help us understand how Malacanang is combating the spread of fake news, we are joined by Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso from the Department of Information and Communications Technology. Welcome to the Big Story, ASIC Paraiso. Let's start with the steps that the department is taking to counter the spread of fake news.
Well, against fake news and against sites or people who proliferate fake news, it is very varying on the steps we take. We first have to understand that there is a challenge when it comes to the platforms in which these fake news are being proliferated, and most of them are being shown or being spread through social media platforms. And the problem primarily there is we don't have jurisdiction over them. Therefore, we cannot exercise regulatory powers over them. So what we do now in government is forge a partnership and a collaboration with the social media platforms. So there are several things we are undertaking. First and foremost, like I said, a collaboration with the social media platforms. And a product of that collaboration is whenever there is an AI-generated video, audio, or picture or image, there would be a banner on these social media sites that these are AI-generated or computer-generated. Then here, this is the part where I thank media and our media partners like yourselves and lending us their platforms to help us reach our countrymen, our kababayans, when it comes to our educational campaigns, our information drives against fake news. We also are now looking into the fact-checking and debunking entities and collaborating with them because we do realize that the only way that we can approach this is it has to be fair, it has to be unbiased, So we're looking into that particular avenue when it comes to combating fake news. And then, as the NBI is doing, when it crosses a certain boundary and it infringes on certain people's rights, we are now starting to file charges and take legal actions against the violators and creators of these fake news. And then we try as much as possible to combat the algorithmic measure effect of troll farms. And we do realize that there are troll farms that affect algorithms. That's why ordinary people that are oblivious to what's going on would regularly receive feeds from on their social media platforms or social media accounts of news that have dubious origins or dubious contents.
That's what I was actually curious about, Asek Aboy, no? As far as the DICT as an agency is concerned, how do you guys monitor fake news at all? Like, meron ba kayong mga media monitoring dyan? And like, if so, how wide or how extensive is this monitoring?
Well, first and foremost, that the ICT has no mandate to monitor these fake news. But when other agencies ask for our helps, that's where we step in. And talking about systems, we do have a system and an application that can monitor both social media sentiments, what is trending, and we can put in certain measures in order for us to pinpoint fake news that are being spread online.
And yun na nga, Asek, I mean, with the rise of artificial intelligence and with just how good editing photos and videos have gotten, I mean, how can we verify all these information before it gets viral? Because you have people now questioning the authenticity of the things they see on social media. Kahit totoo naman talaga siya.
Well, that's the thing. Tama naman ho. Merong mga totoong videos, may mga faking videos, may mga deepfakes, and it's hard to tell the difference. What we do is encourage people to verify their facts, or whether it's a video or audio or image, or even the content, the context of these contents. We have to go to legitimate and verified sources. Like, for example, One News has a verified Facebook page or website, which can be easily accessed by our every Filipino that wants to verify the news. So these are the steps that we have to educate our citizenry about, not just believing everything that comes into their feed. Because you have to remember, and one lookout is whenever you receive a feed, it comes from a third person who shared it, or probably a fictitious account that, is a product of these troll farms.
Who should be the lead agency, ASEC, in going after the sources of fake news?
Well, the responsibility
NBI?
and the mandate is shared by various government agencies. As you properly reported, the President mandated the PCO to check on and try to prevent this fake news, and then we have a collaboration with the PCO. But when it comes to going after the peddlers of fake news and the origins of these fake news, we have our law enforcement agencies like the NBI and the PNP. Then we pass it on to the prosecution services. But I'd like to point out that we have an attached agency called the Cybercrime Investigation and Coordination Council that can be tapped in order for the collaboration of government to be under one roof, and that's something that we would like to propose and we're looking at.
Okay, balikan natin yung fact-checking, no? Because I believe what happened, Asek Aboy, was dati, may mga fact-checkers, for example, Facebook or Meta, they have 3 organizations doing their fact-checking, and some of them are quite well-known, but they've since defunded that, and they're now leaning more towards Twitter or X's, yung community notes, meaning we can all put fact-checks ourselves if we do so desire.
Yes.
Right? Do you think this is the right way? Or because parang we're headed towards regulating it, which we've seen it kind of fail in other more developed nations as well. So to what point should we regulate? Or should we rely on these community notes where we can kind of self-regulate?
Well, that is exactly one of the points that we'd like to emphasize. In other countries talagang self-regulation. But in our particular case, tama kayo, before there was these fact checkers when it comes to these social media platforms, pero tinanggal na ho nila. So what government is looking into is, have an institutionalized fact-checking unit, but it has to be from the outside. So we just want to help them start, and then kasi we have to treat fake news as fake news. Whoever the bias leans towards to, or whoever benefits from those fake news, whether you're pro-administration or anti-administration, dapat to fake news should be treated as fake news. So everyone would be on the same page that, dapat totoong facts lang ho ang lumalabas. I remember saying that, or I remember people saying that it is an infringement on the right to expression. But, we are all entitled to our own opinions. But, we have to remember we are not entitled to our own facts. That has to be, there has to be a single source of.
Pero Asek Aboy, do you remember back, I think in the previous admin, no, before natin maipasa yung SIM card registration law, may katuwang yun na isang provision where we have to register our Facebook accounts like they do in other countries. Won't this be an easier way to like kind of control it? Obviously, that had to be junk para maipasa yung SIM registration law. It was very unpopular at that time. Is that something that we could revisit na para legit Facebook accounts lang belonging to legit people?
How many Facebook accounts are there compared to the population of the Philippines? Baka more.
Baka more, and like really bizarre names,
Can you
right?
help us, Asek? Yeah.
Tama ho. Actually, that's one of the things that we have noticed, and that it is one of the avenues that we are trying to explore. Tama ho kayo, but we have to perfect the SIM card registration first. The DICT recently conducted its audit, and we are in the process of wrapping up that audit of the enforcement of the SIM card registration law. So we are at the phase that we have to recommend whether to verify those pre-registered numbers, and then repeat the registration process altogether, whether it's face-to-face or we allow online, and what government IDs to use, because ang sabi ko nga namin, nung nakita ho namin, ang dami hong mga flaws or ang daming mga nakakalusot ho sa kinonduct natin ng SIM card registration act. That was passed on to the MNOs or the mobile network operators na ultimo ho yung mga graduate na recto nakapag-register. In one hearing nga ho, nasabi pati yung picture ng unggoy nakalusot ho. So those are the things that we have to correct first and strengthen the SIM card registration law. And as well as the enforcement kasi ho, anong nangyari rin ho ngayon, nakakapagbenta ng pre-registered SIM cards yung mga kababayan natin, and some of them use yung poverty as an excuse, but we have to set an example and may kailangan may makasuhan and mapanagot sa mga to para hindi na hutularan. Only at that time that we can revisit that proposition that we have. We tell the social media platforms that before you can register or continue with your social media accounts, it has to be anchored upon a pre-registered SIM card.
Well, Asek, fake news has definitely become a national issue. I mean, you have the House conducting hearings in aid of legislation. Draw the line in terms of censorship and freedom of expression.
Well, when I was in law school, I was taught that your rights end when another person's right begins. So I think that's the line. If it infringes on other people's rights, if it's malicious, if it's defamatory, then it has to be curtailed. Again, I go back to that particular phrase. We are entitled to our own opinion, but we are not entitled to our own facts. So I think that's something that we have to hammer that point across, because right now, everyone apparently in social media can just create, their own facts, their own narratives, unbridled and without consequences, and that has to stop.
But we have laws like cyber libel, we have these laws. Can't we just apply these existing laws? Sometimes we joke na ang dami nating batas, diba? Enforcement is the problem. So can't we just focus on that instead of drafting, a whole new set of regulations and laws?
Tama naman po, and that is what we are currently doing. We are using and utilizing existing laws to go after the creators or the origins of these fake news, those who spread it. But there are still loopholes. For example, if you knowingly know that what you are spreading or what you are sharing is fake news, wala akong parusa ho dyan. Those who gumawa, oo, kasi siya yung origin nun. Pero those people who share and contribute to the proliferation of fake news, wala pa ho. So I think there are still loopholes, and there are still some holes that we need to patch when it comes to the enforcement of the and curtailment of fake news, because so bago sa atin to the laws that we are talking about and enforcing right now does not contemplate that social media and the ICT and the Internet of Things come into play.
All right, well, I guess it's the law, the truth and the rule of law that will fight fake news. So we thank you so much, Assistant Secretary Aboy Paraiso, spokesperson and Assistant Secretary for Legal Affairs of the Department of Information and Communications Technology.
And now moving on to some sports news, Filipina tennis sensation Alex Eala has advanced to the quarterfinals of the Miami Open. This comes after her opponent, former world number 2 Pauline Verzosa, withdrew due to a back injury. Eala will now be going up against current world number 2 Iga Swiatek, a 5-time Grand Slam champion. This will be their first ever matchup. Earlier, Eala pulled off 2 upsets, defeating Latvia's Yelena Ostapenko and American Madison Keys.
Really?
Amazing. When is that going to happen?
Semi-finals na, right? Okay. Tomorrow, what time?
I think tomorrow morning or tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. Yeah. Quarterfinals is tomorrow. Grabe when she
Alex.
So I know it was so exciting, and
after her win, did you hear? Right, she was saying she
oh my God,
told her parents na nakuha ko.
Oh my God, Mom,
and that's what I love about Alex. Every time she wins, she speaks in Filipino,
Tagalog,
right? She speaks in Tagalog because she really wants to banner the Philippines and represent us as a country.
Well, all right. Well, the 3 of us here, of course, full support for Alex. This Women's Month, how timely. Unfortunately, that's it for the big story on this Tuesday night.
We are One News, all sides, all the time.
Thank you for watching. Good night.